She called the cops and screamed, "He's trespassing in that house." But it was my own home. I still remember her voice shaking through the morning air like nails on glass. Karen, the HOA president, stood at the end of my driveway holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. Her bright red blazer matched the rage in her eyes. I had just moved in 3 weeks ago and somehow she already hated me. She pointed at my security camera. "You can't have that thing here. It violates HOA privacy codes." I told her calmly, "Ma'am, this is my property. The camera stays." She laughed, that fake neighborly kind of laugh. "Not for long," she said. That night, my porch light flickered. My AI system, Nova, sent me a voice alert. Unrecognized motion detected at back door. I opened the live feed and froze. Karen was standing there, with a flashlight looking through my kitchen window. She tried to open the back door, whispering something on her phone. I turned on the speaker and said, "Karen, you're trespassing." She jerked back like she saw a ghost, then shouted, "I'm conducting an HOA inspection," and ran off into the dark. The next morning, there was a bright orange notice taped to my front door. Immediate violation. Unauthorized surveillance equipment. At the bottom was her signature, but the HOA stamp was smudged, almost printed. I checked the records online. There was no new HOA rule filed that week. She made it up. I started realizing this wasn't just about a camera. She wanted me out. But she didn't know Nova recorded everything, including what she did last night. I looked straight at the camera and said quietly, "Let's see how far she wants to go." By noon, my phone started blowing up with texts from neighbors I barely knew. "Did you see Karen at your house last night?" one read. Another, "She claimed the HOA is filing a complaint against you." My stomach sank. It wasn't just harassment anymore, it was a full-on attack. I grabbed my laptop and opened Nova's recorded footage. There she was again, sneaking around my backyard, mumbling into her phone about making him leave. I replayed it frame by frame, heart pounding. That's when I noticed something strange. A uniformed man walking behind her wearing a badge. But the badge was fake. And in the reflection of my kitchen window, I could see her handing him cash. My blood ran cold. She was trying to stage a fake law enforcement visit to intimidate me. I didn't panic. My wife had trained SWAT units for a living. If anyone could handle this, it was us. I called her while keeping an eye on Karen through Nova's live feed. "She's trying to fake an arrest," I whispered. "We need proof before she pulls anyone in." Minutes later, Karen marched to my neighbor's house ranting about me, saying I was defying HOA authority. But the neighbor, a retired judge, shook his head and muttered, "Funny, I don't recall any lawful notice being filed." She stormed off, and I realized she had no legal ground at all. I decided to confront her publicly, but carefully. I set Nova to stream live, secretly tagging it to the local news station's mobile app. My hands shook as I typed the alert. HOA President caught faking enforcement on live feed. The stream went online. Within minutes, Karen returned, confident and screaming, "I am the HOA." "You have no right." Then she froze, staring into my camera. Across the country, neighbors and viewers watched her every move. And that's when the first twist hit. She didn't expect to be live on the news. The screen blinked. Thousands of viewers already watching. And Karen, red-faced and frantic, still didn't know that Nova had captured everything from last night, too. Karen's face turned bright red as she realized the camera wasn't just recording. It was broadcasting. "Turn that off," she screamed, stomping toward the porch. But I stayed calm, leaning against the doorframe. "I don't think you understand. Everyone is watching, Karen." Her fake badge glinted under the sun, but now it just made her look ridiculous. She spun around and ran to her car, muttering, "I'll get the cops. They'll make him leave." I knew she'd try to call real law enforcement, but I also knew her history. She had a habit of filing false reports to intimidate people. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 preemptively, telling them calmly, "There may be a woman impersonating an HOA officer and trying to enter my property." By the time real cops arrived, Karen was pacing in the driveway, waving her fake papers. The officer looked at her, then at me, then back at the papers. His brow furrowed. "Ma'am, these documents aren't valid," he said. Her jaw dropped. You can't just..." She stammered, but the officer ignored her and turned to me. "Sir, do you own this property?" I handed him my deed. Karen's panic was visible. This isn't over," she hissed. But now the power was shifting. I stepped aside, letting the cameras and officers see the proof of her lies. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse for her, Nova pinged again, this time with something I hadn't noticed before. Her phone had been broadcasting her calls and messages to the HOA group chat. Every lie she'd told, every plan to intimidate me, all recorded and visible in real time. The officers exchanged glances, my neighbors leaned out their windows, and I felt a quiet satisfaction. Karen's smirk was gone, but the real twist was still coming, one she didn't see at all. I whispered to Nova, "Play the next clip." On the screen, her own HOA board members appeared in a meeting she didn't know was being streamed remotely. They were furious, demanding she explain her fake notices, fake cops, and threats against me. Her face turned white as the news cameras zoomed in. Every viewer could see the entire HOA scandal unfolding live, and Karen realized she was about to lose everything she used to control. Karen stumbled back, her hands trembling. This isn't fair," she shouted, but no one was listening. Her own HOA board members were streaming live from their private meeting room, pointing fingers and demanding answers. "Why are you impersonating authority? Why are you threatening residents?" one of them yelled. The camera caught every word, every panicked step she took. I stayed calm, pretending to sip my coffee while Nova continued recording and streaming. My neighbors were gathering now, whispering to each other, faces a mix of shock and satisfaction. Karen spun toward me, voice cracking. "You can't! This isn't real!" I smiled faintly. "It's as real as your fake badge and fake notices." Then the twist hit, something I hadn't fully expected. One of the board members, a young woman named Lisa, stepped forward holding a folder. "And what about this?" she asked, waving it toward Karen. It contained years of complaints about her behavior, missing HOA funds and unauthorized entries into residents' homes. The files were damning. The live feed made it impossible for Karen to deny anything. She tried to flee, but the crowd was already calling local law enforcement. "Step aside, ma'am," an officer said calmly. Her eyes darted around, realizing the neighbors, the cameras, and the news crew were all on her. Every lie, every stunt, every attempt to intimidate me and my family had been recorded. Her empire of control collapsed in seconds. I glanced at my wife, who had quietly stepped onto the porch. "Not bad for a quiet morning," she whispered, smirking. We both knew the fight wasn't over, but the first real victory had been ours. Karen's face, red and trembling, was being streamed across the city, her lies unraveling with every second. And then Nova pinged again, this time detecting a hidden email she had sent to another HOA board member, trying to frame me for vandalism. My eyes widened. Karen thought she could ruin me quietly, but instead she had just handed me the ultimate evidence. I opened the email, heart racing. Karen had tried to forge messages, claiming I had damaged HOA property and threatened neighbors. But Nova had flagged it all, every keystroke, every deleted draft, every attachment, and time-stamped it perfectly. I uploaded the proof to the live feed. Within minutes, thousands of viewers saw the emails and knew exactly who was lying. Karen's expression changed from panic to fury. "You can't post that. That's private," she screamed. But it was too late. Even her own board members were shaking their heads. "This is over, Karen," Lisa said, voice cold. "You've gone too far." Then the next twist slammed into the story. One of the neighbors, Mr. Thompson, stepped forward. "Officer, you need to know. Karen has a history of fake HOA complaints in multiple states. I have the files." He handed over a binder thick with old reports, photos, and official complaints. The officer scanned it quickly. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to come with us," he said, calm but firm. Karen froze. Her eyes darted to the cameras, to the neighbors, and finally back at me. I could see her mind racing. She thought she had power here, but now every layer of her schemes was being peeled back. Her own attempts at intimidation, fake cops, forged notices, secret recordings, all exposed in one morning. And the crowd, once fearful, now murmured approval and curiosity, wondering what else would come out. I leaned close to my wife and whispered, "I think Nova just found something else." The AI highlighted a suspicious folder on Karen's laptop she had left in her car, a hidden recording of HOA meetings where she manipulated other board members to cover her tracks. I didn't even need to open it yet. Just knowing it existed made her tremble. Karen's voice quivered, a mix of rage and fear. "This isn't over. You'll regret this," she spat. But everyone could see the truth, and every lie had already been captured. Her empire of control was crumbling in real time, and there was no place left for her to hide. Karen's fury turned desperate. She stormed toward her car, yanking at the doors, mumbling threats under her breath. But I stayed on the porch, calmly watching, knowing every move she made was being captured by Nova. My neighbors had gathered in small groups, whispering about her past schemes and how she had abused HOA power for years. The crowd's energy was like a wave, tense, curious, and hungry for justice. Then the final twist before the showdown hit. I remembered the title deed of my property, the real proof that this land belonged to me. I had it safely on my phone, ready to show anyone who doubted me. Karen had tried to intimidate me with fake rules, fake badges, fake cops. But none of it mattered because I owned this land, legally and fully. I held up the phone to the live feed and said, "This is my property. Not yours, not the HOA's, mine." Her reaction was priceless, a mix of shock, disbelief, and panic. "No, you can't," she started, but the crowd interrupted her with murmurs of agreement, calling out, "She's lying. She's the problem, not him." The local news crew zoomed in on her, and the officer stepped closer, hand on his holster, ready if needed. Karen's phone buzzed continuously, messages from other HOA members demanding explanations. Nova had forwarded her private emails and texts to the live feed as evidence. Every lie, every plan to intimidate, every fake complaint, all visible to the public. Her empire of control collapsed faster than I could have imagined, and then the final twist of the morning revealed itself. Karen, in her panic, had parked in a fire lane right in front of my driveway while trying to flee. Within seconds, the city towing service arrived, taking her car away in front of the cameras. The crowd erupted with shocked laughter, some cheering. She tried to plead, to argue, but everyone was watching. She had lost control completely. I stepped back inside, watching Karen fume from the curb as the live feed captured her humiliation. I sipped my coffee, feeling calm. My family was safe. The land was ours, and for the first time I allowed myself to smile. Nova had done more than just protect us. It had exposed every lie and every attempt at abuse, all while keeping us out of harm's way. By late afternoon, the neighborhood had turned into a mix of spectators and supporters. Karen, red-faced and fuming, sat on the curb where her car had been towed. The news crew captured every second, the live feed still streaming her meltdown. My neighbors came over, congratulating us quietly, shaking their heads at her arrogance. I took a deep breath and called the officer over. "Everything you need is here. The live feed, Nova's recordings, the forged HOA notices, and her emails trying to frame me. She's impersonated authority, harassed residents, and trespassed multiple times." The officer nodded, taking notes, and finally said, "We'll handle it from here. You've done the right thing by documenting everything." Karen tried one last desperate move, and she lunged toward my porch, waving her fake papers. "I'll sue. The officer stepped forward calmly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Ma'am, that's enough. You're under investigation for impersonating law enforcement and harassment." She froze, realizing no one was backing her anymore. The live feed caught every second. Then came the most satisfying moment. Nova highlighted an incoming email from her HOA board. They were removing her from her position immediately, citing misconduct and abuse of power. Her face drained of color. The community had finally spoken, and the truth was out. The woman who tried to control, intimidate, and fabricate authority had been exposed publicly, legally, and permanently. I turned to my wife, smiling. "That's how you protect your home." She nodded, her eyes proud but cautious. I looked around at the neighbors, the cameras, and the quiet streets. Justice had been served without a single violent act. The law, the truth, and Nova had done their work perfectly. Karen had lost her power, her credibility, and her fearsome reputation all in one day. And as the sun began to set, I realized something deeper. It wasn't just about winning against Karen. It was about standing up for what's yours, protecting family, and showing that no one, not even a self-important HOA president, can trample on justice and truth. The next morning, the neighborhood felt different, lighter, freer. Karen was gone. Her car towed, her position stripped, and her lies exposed for the entire community to see. Parents let their kids play outside without worry. Neighbors chatted across fences, and even the local news had praised the transparency and courage shown in standing up to abuse. I stood on my porch, sipping coffee, feeling the weight of what had happened. My wife joined me, leaning on my shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. "Not just for us, but for everyone here." I nodded, knowing she was right. Nova had been more than a security system. It had been a shield, a witness, and the ultimate tool of justice. Then the final twist revealed itself, subtle but powerful. As I scrolled through the live feed archives, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Karen's email account had been auto-forwarding complaints and threats to multiple HOA boards in other towns. She had tried the same scheme elsewhere, but thanks to Nova, the evidence was now in my hands. I smiled quietly, knowing the ripple effect of exposing her would protect countless others. Neighbors waved as they walked by, some stopping to shake my hand. "You didn't just defend your home, you defended all of us," one said. It hit me that property, family, and justice weren't just personal victories. They were communal victories. And the message was clear. No one, no matter how entitled, can override the law or common decency when people stand together and the truth is revealed. As I closed the laptop, I whispered to Nova, "Good job, partner. You didn't just record history today. You made it." The screen blinked softly, almost like a silent nod of agreement. Outside, the sun shone on our yard and our home, safe, free, and ours. And I realized that sometimes the greatest power isn't in fighting back with anger or force, but in staying calm, documenting the truth, and letting justice unfold exactly as it should. The HOA president had tried to break into my life, but in the end, her own schemes had undone her, and we had turned a nightmare into a story of victory, protection, and undeniable truth.